Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It is Monday, May 19th, a little after 6 p.m. Uh, Start the day off as we normally do and see if anyone has any questions. A lot going on out there. Our prayers and meditations have uh, started a lot of action in the world. And what do you see? What has you excited today? Any questions or comments?
This is Ramel. I have a question.
Hey, Vermeer.
Yesterday I went back. Hi. Yesterday I went back and read um First Peter all the way through, and I used truth in place of Jesus, as Audrey has suggested.
Uh-huh.
But I want to make sure I was right about something. Where it says Jesus Christ, it would be truth of deliverance or for deliverance.
Uh, yes.
Okay.
That's how I see it, or deliverance for truth.
Okay.
Yeah, uh, because uh, we are trying to look at these things spiritually and pick out the meaning of them, looking beyond the words and looking at the energies of them. So yeah, that's I think you're correct there. And if anybody cares to elaborate further, please feel free. But good question.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, hey, Ron, this is Teresa. How are you?
I'm well, Teresa. How are you?
I'm good. Ron, I had a question. Pastor was going to kind of repeat something that I wanted him to actually relay again. And it was regarding replace the word suffering with search. Do you
Yeah.
remember when he spoke of that? And I just wanted more clarity on that, especially as I looked at First Peter and looking at uh, suffering for doing good, and so all of that kind of resonated with me, and it was kind of like a aha moment, and basically to continue to be who you are and know who you are, and you will still be rewarded regardless of what adversities come to you or whatever it is that's going to happen on a day by day basis.
Yeah.
Um, I say that because I have my employees and other team members trying to figure out why am I not operating in a chaotic environment or moment
Mm-hmm.
as everyone else is. And so for me, as I've said to them, as well as our state partners here in Florida, that I take it day by day. And so I know that I can only do what I can do for that day because I can't take on any more. It's kind of how I've been able to continue to be who I am and do what I need to do. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the question, Teresa, and the explanation behind it. He and I actually talked about that, your question, and we were going to lead off with it this morning. He and Miss Phoebe came back from the hospital, and he's just tidying up some things, getting some loose ends, but he'll be on here shortly. But yeah, we he had talked about your question. It's a good question. It'll be a good follow-up. While we have a minute though, if you don't mind, I like Vermil's first question. I want to correct something that I said. I think you were right in how you saw it, uh, Vermil, because it's the search for truth that leads us to deliverance. You know? So I think the way you phrased it at first makes more sense, and it's the thing that we search for that leads us to deliverance, and it certainly describes the journey that we have taken so far. So I agree with you. Does that make sense?
I I feel like there's a nuance difference. I kind of feel like for me, I was thinking individually, but what I got from you is that as a group, we're deliverers of truth, right? As
So
we're going along learning.
well, it is both. It is individual and collectively. Uh,
Okay.
the beauty of it is, I don't know if you guys feel it, but sometimes when we're talking about opening up scriptures, you can feel it. You can certainly feel it when we're talking about somebody's talking about some painfulness or something that they went through. You feel the energy from the group. You feel the comfort coming from the group, or you feel people sharing your pain. That's what I love about this group. But each and every one of us also taking our own journey, and it is through those our own journeys that have strengthened us when we get together, because it doesn't matter where you are on your journey or where you think somebody else is. We all have the same desire, and the desire for truth is what bonds us together. So that's the beauty of what we're doing. So it is an individual thing because each and every one of us can stop at any time, you know. Um, at various times over the weekends, you may have we've had as many as I've seen 34, 35 people on, and then we may have as few as 12 to 15. So everybody's busy, everybody's doing things, and everybody has their own priorities. But uh the beauty of it is we come together. The energy can really be felt. It really means something, and it opens up to us.
I agree.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Resonates.
James Walter, did you make it on? Okay. Well, when he comes on, we will look at Teresa's question, see where we are with that. Is there anyone else? Did we finish First Peter other than okay. Seeking to know what person or time the Spirit of Christ within them was indicating as he predicted the sufferings of Christ and the glories to follow. Yeah. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. Um, again, is there anything else? Anybody else have anything? I didn't really have anything tonight. I looked at something though that has me intrigued, and because we study things sometimes, and it takes us someplace, and sometimes it takes a while and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it comes to us right away. And I was looking at something that if you look at Genesis 49 and 29, and let me see if I can find the other one. This intrigued me because it takes me somewhere, takes us somewhere. I'm real looking at ancestors now and what that looks like spiritually. what it looks like to us and gaining better understanding of it. And what he says here really kind of caught me. He says, and he charged them and said to them, I'm about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, which is trees in the land of Canaan. That is a lot of description to me. And I look at that and I try to look those words up and I can't get an understanding of what that is trying to say. But that is that has me intrigued because when he says gather me to my people and bury me with my fathers, he's talking about the ancestors. But if you look at the descriptions of where he wants to be buried, uh it just kind of sticks with me. Has anybody ever looked at this or thought about it? Or is it just me that is kind of intrigued now with a better understanding of ancestors?
Hey guys, I'm back.
Hey, Pastor.
Since we've been talking in depth about ancestors,
Uh-huh.
every time I see something like that, whether it's in scripture or someone talking about it, that's the first thing that comes to my mind, that they're talking about ancestors. What I'm saying in essence is this: there's no way in the world that the indigenous people, especially in that part of the world, could have been talking about anything other than ancestors.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And if you listen to this day, what you're constantly hearing, um, the people in Africa who are throwing off the yokes of imperialism are constantly talking about being guided by the ancestors,
Mhm.
being led by those who have gone before them. When I listened at Ibrahim Jarre in the Burkina Faso, I
Yes.
hear Marcus Garvey more than anyone else. I hear Malcolm X. You know, I hear Kwame Nkrumah. I hear Julius Nyerere in his voice, in his speech, in the words that he says, and his outreach and his desires. I hear this, and I really I hear when he's talking about Africans in the diaspora. I hear Marcus Garvey when he's talking about throwing off the yoke of imperialism. I hear Kwame Nkrumah. The great thing about this is that our ancestors, since we have begun to embrace them for who they are and understanding the power that they have and the power that has been bestowed upon us, that we are beginning to see the African in the diaspora begin to become one with the African on the continent of Akebulon. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Can I just say one thing about this verse? If you notice in there, it uses the word cave, C-A-V-E, twice, at least in the New American Standard. When you look at the root of cave, it means to arouse, to awaken, to stir up, to bear naked, but to awaken something. And that just kind of it almost feels like where we are right now. Things are being stirred up, people are being awakened. So it is that connection that he makes to the ancestors, that which is earthy is reaching out to the ancestors. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And I also think metaphorically, one of the things being said here is uh, you reach the ancestors by death, but this is spiritual. What we're looking at, the death is looking at this story. It looks like something that is physical, but this is a spiritual thing that we're looking at. So where we are now is because we are uh, individually and collectively surrendering self in order to be more.
You know how I see that also is that when you exit the body, you come alive. You are alive. The life that you are experiencing is far beyond what we experience here. That's called life. The death is what we are experiencing because we've been dead to who we are. We have been dead to the inherent power that we were created with. We have been dead to the to the relationship that we have with our Creator, that we have with the ancestors. And now that we have begun to embrace it, we have become more invigorated. It's like we are beginning to live, if that makes any sense. And the life that we are experiencing is far better and different than the life that we experienced prior to this journey that we're on.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm eating, so that's why I'm not on camera. Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions about this? And I guess I brought it up because that's something I was looking at before we got on, but I will like to revisit this at some other point when I get some understanding on it. But I introduced it to you as well, if anybody sees something here that you'd like to discuss in those verses. Thank you. Pastor, briefly, we discussed Teresa's question, or we brought it up anyway. We didn't discuss it. But if you so inclined to,
That question again, please.
the question that you and I spoke about, uh, the 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 uh the suffering.
Yes. You have it before you.
Teresa,
Hey, Ron.
yes, ma'am. Will you restate your question for us, please?
I'll try. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, my question was that Pastor mentioned yesterday, when we talked about the word suffering, to replace the word suffering with the word search, in a sense. And so I wanted to know more about what that entails when he mentioned that on yesterday. And excuse me. And so I also looked at, the information from First Peter
Yeah.
chapter 3, verse 8, where it talked about suffering for doing good. And also the day in, day out of life, where people are often asking me, how can I remain calm with our working environment and not knowing what is to happen from one day to the next? And so my response has always been, we can only do what we can do one day at a time. At least that's how I lead with who I am.
Mhm.
And so I know who I am, and I have to act accordingly. And yes, I am helping to lift them up, but at the end of the day, I have go-tos, but I also need that nourishment as well. And so from having the family, and being able to hear the messages and being able to reflect and just meditate on what is being said, going back to have that also helps me in my day-to-day life. spiritual life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
When I was talking about that yesterday, what I was making an effort to say is when we are in the process of suffering, it causes us to begin to search for a way out. It pushes us to search for a way to bring an end to the suffering. And the way we approach it determines, it is determined rather by our attitude. If you know who you are and you're engaged in suffering, then you take time to sit with it and you begin to embrace the reality that whatever you are facing, it is not to destroy you, it's to strengthen you. And when we begin to embrace it in that manner, um, the circumstances might not change, but we change. And and when we change our attitude about it, it's not long after that that we begin to see things change. However, most of the time we see it retrospectively because it's very difficult to see it when it's on you at that point in time. So this idea of suffering is also based upon um, you. For example, if you are living frivolously and you do a lot of things that is out of order that brings problems to you and you're suffering as a result of it, you have to change your attitude about those things that you've gotten entangled with because you have brought it on yourself. And since that has happened, you are the only one who was able to change it. And sometimes changing it is not as easy as you think it is. You have to process through it. And sometimes there are consequences that go along with it. But no matter what it is, you cannot afford to lose sight of who you are, regardless of the type of suffering that you are enduring. Does that make sense, Teresa?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about that?
Teresa, did you have a follow-up question? Wasn't it a two-part question, or did Pastor address both ends of it?
Ron, I think he did address both.
Okay.
But you know me, I'll reach out if not. But
Okay.
yeah, I missed the part where he referenced to remove the word suffering and put in desertion and kind of elaborate on what he meant by that. That's what I missed and wanted to make sure I kind of heard that again from him today.
I said that in reference to the pressure that suffering puts on you. Pressure pushes you to search, which means that pressure or suffering is a tool that gives us the opportunity to search. To search what? To search for a way out? That's what we look for first. However, if you use that suffering to search for a way out and you don't see a way out, then when you begin to talk to others about it, if they know who they are, they begin to help you to understand that instead of seeing suffering as something that's destructive, see it as something that has encouraged you to search for more understanding about who you are. Because most of the times when we are suffering, the greatest suffering that we do is when we have a bill that we can't pay, when we're about to have a house or a car repossessed, when we're losing a job. All of the things that we are looking at that causes us seemingly to suffer the most are things that are connected with this material physical world. as opposed to spirituality. However, looking beyond this physical material world and understanding the spiritual essence of who we are, then we began to get a handle on this idea of suffering because of materialism. Why? Because if we are suffering because of this material world, then the question becomes, how tightly are we holding on to the concepts of this world? Do we feel like they are truly the reality, or do we understand that they are manufactured by those who seek to control us? And when we begin to embrace the reality that what our suffering in this material world are manufactured, especially for the African, they are brought into existence in order to keep the African in a mental state of chaos and in the emotional state of believing that we are too weak to fight the system or to rail against it. When we get to the place in understanding the essence of the African, then we begin to see all of these, the redlining when it came to housing, or the burning down of our communities, the moving out of our community jobs in like manufacturing plants, etc. The reason that manufacturing plants were moved overseas is to destroy the middle class, but at the same time to make more money. Example, when America began to manufacture in China, China was poor. People were starving in China. And when they went to China and China began to produce and manufacture everything for this country, the Chinese did not use that money to buy luxury cars or build luxury homes. They used that money that they were making to build roads. They used that money to improve their universities, their schools, their hospitals. They used that money to undergird those who were poor and to increase the comfort for those who were poor. Those who lived in rural areas, for the first time, they were getting lights. Utility plants were put in those areas using that money. And the government was doing that based upon the manufacturing and the receipts that were coming from the corporations who had Chinese manufacturing their products. At the same time that this was happening, the idea of that them, I'm sorry, the results of them moving to China gutted the middle class. What it did, it increased the poverty for those who are at the lower ends of income, especially poor white people and African people. The problem that we have had is that when we get to a place where we become quote unquote middle class, we fail to realize that that in itself is an insult, because everyone who is not living on in a socioeconomic status that you are saying that they are lower class, because you cannot have a middle class without having a lower class, and that pits us against each other. And what eventually happens is that the middle class began to realize something: you poor too. You may have more than that person who's making minimum wage, but you're living from paycheck to paycheck. And that has been designed also by virtue of getting the jobs out of this country. Does that make sense to you guys?
Shit. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, sir. It makes sense.
Thank you.
This is Cheryl. I wanted to add that in addition to sending jobs out of this country, we got rid of trades. We got rid of all the trade schools. We took the trade out of the high schools so that our young Black men who were going to school, they're getting trades, they were making money. They were making very good money. And so that was another way to stop the middle class, quote the middle class. Basically, it was done to stop us. I'm done.
There's no question about it. Matter of fact, Peterbilt, this guy I went to school with at Federal City, was teaching leather repair and to make how to make shoes at one of the high schools in DC. And when they decided to take it out of the school, there was someone who went to school with us who worked at the district office. And they called him and told him that tomorrow they're going to shut your program down. He had no warning whatsoever.
Right.
They're going to confiscate all your equipment. Well, the equipment was his. So he got some friends that night and went to the school and took all his equipment and opened a shop. So he could teach those kids the same thing. And he's doing it to this day. So what I'm saying in essence is this: these programs were not shut down over time. They were shut down immediately.
Right.
And when that happened, not only did the trades end, the narrative became that African people don't want to lay bricks. They don't want to be plumbers. That's not it. It was not the Hispanics who wanted to be plumbers and we didn't. It was that we were no longer being trained to be plumbers. We were no longer being trained to lay bricks. All of that was destroyed. And the guy who does my concrete and brickwork was one of the instructors at the high school. And overnight, they told him they no longer needed his services. This is how abruptly these things were taken out of the community, because they knew if you gradually take them out, then they're going to increase the ones who are the people that they're training, but they took them out overnight. So what did this do? It sounds like we're simply talking about economic, but we are also talking about suffering, because this increased the degree of suffering in the communities. And then on top of that, the church who justified enslavement by saying that people who are of African descent was cursed, and they are to be servants to Europeans for life. They took the Christianity justified enslavement by saying that, and the same Christianity that justified it did not take any steps to challenge the suffering that ensued after the communities were destroyed, after employment was cut in these neighborhoods. They didn't do that, and now they are suffering because they are losing their jobs. They are being terminated. So what I'm saying is this: if we had not looked at the plight of people who are suffering and felt something in our hearts about it, we would not be on this journey today. Because quite frankly, most of the people who are on this journey that I know of, the overwhelming majority of them can live pretty comfortably if they chose to. If they chose to. But there's more to life than living comfortably. Because I don't understand how you can find comfort in living when your neighbor is starving. I don't understand how you can find comfort in living when America exchanged slavery for prisons. I don't understand how you can be in comfort when, if you look at the laws that are on the books, you will see that they were put on the books from Jim Crow for the express purpose of making it difficult for people, especially Africans, to obey that law. What am I saying? If you take all the jobs out of the community, there are no jobs in the community. What are you going to do to feed your family? And don't tell me that, don't be so sanctimonious with me and tell me that you wouldn't sell drugs. Don't tell me that. If you had no other way of feeding your kids, you would do whatever it took to feed them. And that is the environment that was created, bringing suffering into play. And Christianity blinded us to suffering by saying that we must suffer because Jesus suffered. And when we die and go to heaven, the suffering will be over with. And now we understand that suffering ends when you realize who you are. Everyone knows who we are except us. When we embrace who we are, look at the changes that are taking place globally when it comes to those children of a Kabbalah. Look how unified Africans are today as opposed to how they were 5 years ago. Not because somebody called a meeting, as Marcus Garvey did in New York, but because the ancestors have heard the cries. The ancestors have felt the pain. The ancestors have answered our cries and said to us, listen, my children, follow the direction that I'm giving to you. And when Ibrahim Traoré raised his voice in Burkina Faso and spoke about removing imperialism from his country and others, that was a clarion voice that reverberated in every community of Africans on the continent as well as in the diaspora. And at this moment, the ancestors are the greatest protection that we and he has in order for us to get beyond this thing of being feeling pity for ourselves because we're suffering. Because we're suffering because we don't have a job. Because we're suffering because we don't have as much money as someone else. These things should push us to embrace the reality that your spiritual essence is more powerful, more desired, more effective than any march in the streets. And if you cannot see that now, you cannot see with your eye. Because right now, out of all the things that we have done, marching in the streets, being jailed, doing all the other things that we did, right now we are sitting at home and have a greater effect on the change that is necessary for humanity than we ever had. And even sitting at home, being challenged and threatened, we see that the people of African descent are not listening at the lies anymore, because what has taken place is they might not understand it, but they are no longer waiting for Jesus to come back. They are listening at the ancestors saying, heaven is now. Hell is what you're going through. So I say all of that to say this. We are not only on a spiritual journey, we are the spiritual journey. And the proof is in the pudding. Look at how effective we are without even lifting a finger in terms of what's happening in the streets. That European mindset is crying out to the African, come help us. Come with us in the streets. Let's change this together. And the African is saying, you created this mess. You fix it. So I'm saying the day will come. The day will come when they have suffered enough. The day will come when the voice of the African would change the drumbeat that the world has been marching to. It has no rhythm to it. It has no power to it. And that is the reason it needs guns in order to maintain it. But there is something that's more powerful than a gun. There is something that's feared more than an army. And the thing that is more powerful than a gun and feared more than an army is when the children of a Kabbalah embrace who they are. And that is the fear that's in the heart of those with a European mindset to this day. France is afraid to, at this very moment, that it is going bankrupt because its colonists, the ones who, the countries that they colonized in the past, are saying to them, no more, no more. The economy of France is based upon the imperialism that they are and the control that they hold over the countries that they colonize. Right now, Europeans, United States of America, are afraid because they know that France is just one country that is going to find itself in a weakened or bankrupt state, and others will follow suit because there is no economy that is strong, successful, or productive on the face of this earth that is not robbing Africa. I'm done. I hope there are questions or comments. Even the Pope know that.
That's strong, though. I guess the only thing I think about is media coverage. You know, just I was looking at a video this morning, and somebody asked me about it, and I told them what the video was and let them see it. And there are people still that don't have a clue. It's because it gets no coverage. It gets nothing here.
But the difference, Ron, is that the ancestors don't need media coverage.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened when all of the Western media companies moved out of Burkina Faso. They were not going to give them any publicity at all. They were not going to talk about anything that they were doing. Even when Abraham was invited to speak at the UN, and the week before they were supposed to meet, they canceled his speaking engagement. And rather than him raising hell about it, what did he do? He sent message to all the countries in Africa, 54 countries, well, 53, with here's 54, and 47 countries in that short period of time came to Burkina Faso to meet with him to establish a foundation to bring together African nations for the benefit of Africa and Africans. And when they saw that, they meaning media outlets, they flocked to it, but America shut it down in terms of covering it in the media, but Europe did.
Yeah.
And what they found out was that the reason America shut it down is because without Africa, America is one of the poorest countries on the face of the earth. How's doing, boss?
Well, I just wanted to add a couple of things. As soon as I realized they were the Western media was shutting it down, I started looking around through the African diaspora, other sources, other resources, and there are many. And what I'm finding, because I'm following it with great interest, what I'm finding is that there are still some countries that are bending the knee, but increasingly, our young people, I love our young people. Our young people are speaking up. They are doing such creative things as establishing, they're streaming their own information. They set up their own websites so that it doesn't matter what everybody else does. They can still get the word out. So much so that the EU is now requesting meetings. They want they after doing everything they could, after cutting off all the resources, after saying that they were unsafe, they were a red area, after attempting to kill him over 19 times. It's 19 and counting now. And as recently as a few days ago, they have decided that they want to, quote, resume the talks. They want to continue the dialogue, which is a joke because France and the United States would be Baroque without the resources that Al-Qaeda provides. So it's not like, and they're talking about, well, they want to talk about resuming the partnership. And I said, well, that's a lost cause if because their partnership is we make promises and we keep none. We take all the resources and leave you nothing. And so, excuse me, Adonis, 1 second. And so as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about why our sister lost the election. And I understand that that was God's will, but also there was a lesson in there for me. I can only speak for myself. And I have been complaining about the fact that how can you fully represent me, a constituent, when you're taking money from corporations? Now, both sides are taking money from corporations, which would explain why the minimum wage really hasn't gone up and why we don't have health care for everybody, just a lot of basic things. And for me, it's clearer and clearer. There are lots and lots of reasons why. In addition to which, had she won, things would not have accelerated, I think, to the level that they have now, because Trump put his foot on the gas, and it just, because he thought he was hurting our people, and it just opened the floodgates. And our ancestors just brought us together, and every time I think about it, I just get so full because God is just so awesome, that he allows us to see these things, and every time I think about it, I just get so full because I see our people coming together in a way we never have before. And it just makes me feel proud and humble. And every time I look at Ibrahim Traore and all of the brothers and sisters who are coming together, and the stories, for example, I'll tell you this one story that I'll get off because I'm just so full. They tell a story. Ibrahim Traore and his soldiers were on their way to a meeting. This cow was in the middle of the road, and they tried to shoo him away. He wouldn't go. They blew the horn, they made noise, they tried to swish him on the behind. He wouldn't go. So the captain says, wait. He is so wise. He said, wait, I want you to go very carefully and look around the cow. The cow was blocking a mine. Had they moved him out of the way, the mine would have blown them up. And so I said, nature is God is using everything to preserve that spirit.
Ancestors.
Yes. Oh, I know. And it just fills me up so that, sometimes I just find myself in tears because I'm so happy. I'm just so happy to be alive to see this, because I had almost given up, because I said, Lord, we've been through so much. And here we are, we seem to be in the same place. We can't move, we can't really move. And he's moving, Al-Qaeda is rising, and our people are coming together in a way that I had hoped for, but never imagined I would live to see it. So I just want to let you know how much I appreciate your wisdom and your guidance and your support and the love that you bring. I'm done.
Thank you.
Hey, Rev, this is Charles. she brought up, Balaam on that donkey, and that angel was standing in front of him, gonna kill Balaam if he'd kept going.
The same story.
It's almost the same story. And the donkey turned around and talked to him. You don't see that angel?
Yeah,
That's same move.
I see that.
Same. It's almost the same. Go ahead.
I was saying I see exactly what you're saying.
Charles, is there any page in this Bible you have not read? You read
Been
most
around
of it.
rep, not much.
Yeah, I just messing with you. Good discussion, y'all.
I have a quick statement to make. Pastor was talking about France, how they're about to go bankrupt. I think it's so funny or interesting that we just had the Olympics. And if anybody saw the opening, it showed all the history of Paris. It was a lot of stuff that was put into it. It's very elaborate. Here, now, a few months later, we're about to see a different story play out in France. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Yeah, good observation. Well, I appreciate you guys, and I thank you, Cheryl, because you got me excited again. Yeah, I appreciate that. Appreciate your enthusiasm. And yeah, it just surprised me that a couple of people I work with, younger people that have no clue as to what's going on. And I just thought, wow, if everybody could see this, I'm excited about it. If everybody could see this, so, but I'll enlighten them. I'll let them know.
Keep this in mind that we did not have a clue of how things were going to work out. Remember?
Yeah,
We were waiting to see what the Pope had to say. We've never waited for that before. Who would have thought that a Pope would speak as a partner with Africans and admit that slavery could never have existed if it had not been for the church? Who would have thought that? So, how things are working out, whether they see it or not, or whether we think they understand it or not, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What matters is that we continue the journey and make sure the eyes open and continue with the enthusiasm that we have for the truth. And we will be shown other avenues that will be open for mankind, even if they don't see it, to benefit from the spiritual, the spiritual essence of a Kabbalah. Does that make sense, Ron?
yes, sir.
Wow, Pastor. I was just saying earlier how his name is Ibrahim, basically Abraham, but in the Muslim version. But so just like the Creator told Abraham to leave his country, leave that consciousness, and I will show you a new thing. And then here's the Pope, the new Melchizedek.
Might not know it, but
He might not know it, but he's the new Melchizedek.
And he also possesses melanin. You do know that, don't you?
Oh yeah, Creole grandparents.
Yes. So it's not difficult for him to be in tune to what's happening. and have his eye open.
Yeah, I was thinking he probably gained a lot of what he said. He probably gained from his grandparents. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now his brother's a different story. His brother is a racist from the word go. His brother is worse than Elon Musk when it comes to racism. I don't even know how he talked to him, to be honest with you. If that was it, I'd be like, you know what, let's just don't talk. But anyway, I think that we are in the midst of a revolution that the world has never experienced before. A revolution that's being fought in the what the scriptures call the heavenlies. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. Our weapons are spiritual. And the weapons of our warfare that are spiritual are our ancestors. And all we have to do is continue to reverence them, embrace them, and follow that guidance. Right now, what I am experiencing is difficult to speak of, but it's a presence that's extremely strong. And the things that I have desired for so long, I'm beginning to see them come to fruition. Keep in mind, we have fought in the streets, marching. We have fought with voter registration, being shot at, threatened. We have had our people put on a spit. You know what a spit that you turn the hog on? Had our people put on those because they were registering people to vote, and they lit a fire under them and roasted them and picked up body parts to take pictures with. We've been through all of these things. And right now, no one is seeking revenge. That's powerful. How is it that you can take a people and do everything that you can think of to destroy them, to make them suffer the cruelest things on the face of the earth? Laying a woman who's pregnant on the ground and tying her to two horses, and you are forced to watch them split her open. And yet, we're not seeking vengeance, we're seeking change. Because God, Elohim, the spiritual essence of who we are, always forgives. Because there are no caveats when it comes to forgiveness. It's simple. Forgiveness is what it is, without caveats. There are no exceptions. That's who we are. And yes, it takes a lot of water to swallow that pill, but swallow it we must. I'm done. Audrey?
Well, you use the spirit to swallow that pill, and you can swallow anything. One of the things that we committed to earlier, years ago, is what you initially taught us, and allow things to unfold as they will when you trust the universe. Don't try to shape it. And had we tried to shape it based on the limitations of our own knowledge, there would have been a different outcome. And so we are unlimited now based on our understanding that our essence is unlimited. Our creator is unlimited. And all we have to do now is sit back and watch how things unfold to the magnitude that they are across the entire earth, not just the United States, but the entire world. So I'm just getting my popcorn and
I agree.
putting things in the macro and just
Yeah.
sitting and waiting.
When the cable on is free, the whole world would be free. All I say is stay the course. Stay the course. We are the spear that's pierced the darkness so that we can get light from that darkness, understanding the wisdom that's necessary for humanity to thrive as opposed to simply survive. That's who we are. I'm done, guys. There is so much can be said. So much that can be said.
Anyone else? Questions or comments? Okay, is this a good place to
Right.
pause? Yes, sir. Go ahead, Chuck.
I have a question, and my question is going to take us back to Psalm 8 and verse 8.
Okay,
Yeah,
read it.
Psalm 8 and verse 8. You want me to read it?
Yes, sir.
It said, the birds of the heavens and the fish of the sea, whatever passes through the path of the sea. And when y'all read that, I had that question to answer it. So I guess you told me not at that time. So I'm gonna ask it now. Does that path of the sea how does that path deal with the path that God parted the sea for Israelites to walk on dry land? How does that path coincide with this path? Or is it any kind of relationship to it?
Ron, the Bible go tell you so.
Sir?
Well, Pastor and I discussed this as well because that was one of the questions. See, this path is plural, and that one kind of but it's talking about something that's
Talk about the
well
journey.
traveled. Yeah, a route that's well traveled. And I tell you what, it made me think about, Charles. It made me think about the route that the sand takes when it comes to Africa over here, and we talked about it is the same route that the slave ships took.
Okay.
Now, no, not okay. I don't know if that's related. But that was one of the when it talks about something that's well traveled. That's what I thought of. But I remember.
Ron,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
I'm trying to think of what Audrey said in relationship to the roar of the sea. Audrey, you remember
Say again, Pastor?
when we talk about the sea means to roar?
Yeah.
What was your response to that? Do
I
you
don't
remember?
remember. But I'm thinking though, the paths of the sea are basically talking about the currents, aren't they? Which can go currents go every which way. So, but it could also mean the paths of our own internal sea and paths. Because I mean, the fish and the fowl are just a symbolism for all the
Yeah.
kinds of things that come across our path and all the kinds of things that we have to deal with. So anyway, I'm looking at it in two ways.
Yeah, you just reminded me of something. I watch a lot of nature shows, National Geographic and stuff like that, and it talks about the migration of whales or sharks and whatever and all the animals and you know their internal clocks and how they know which routes to take to go which way and so this is I agree with you. It could be talking about a number of things. Could be talking about naturally and in a spiritual sense, as you said. Uh, the sea could represent to us that which is that part of us which is unknown, that part of us which is unstable. Uh, so, but I remember when we looked at this before, I still had a question about it as well.
Didn't Sheldon say something about this?
He did. I just can't remember what was said in reference
Yeah,
to.
I can't remember either.
Past comes from a root word that means to arrange or to set in order or to prepare something, to wander or go on a journey.
So what you're saying, when God parted the sea, he made that path for the Israelites to walk on dry land to the other side.
Let me speak to that Israelite thing,
All right.
because this is not talking about people. This is talking about you have been in a tight place. And that tight place that you have been in has been a place that was created by Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And it has kept you in bondage to the extent that you don't even know who you are. And now that you have begun to search for who you are, you have begun to see the light of creation, the light of spirituality. You just a slither of light. And now you are desiring to leave this tight place. And before you is laid a pathway of protection. Regardless of how the sea rolls or how the people around you or the thoughts in your head, it doesn't matter how loud they are. Stay focused on the path that's been made for you. And you will get to a place that's called a wilderness. And in that wilderness, you will be free from that tight spot that you were being held in bondage, that you were in bondage in. You'll be free from that. So you're no longer in bondage because your mind is searching for freedom. And in this wilderness, in order for you to embrace the freedom that you're crying for but don't understand, there are things that you must be purged from. And all of the principles that you have ingested from Christianity that brought all of this bondage to fruition in the first place, you must be purged of it. And in this place of the wilderness, you don't see life. You don't feel any life. You don't feel like anything that is positive because you are wrestling with what to believe and what not to believe. And the more you begin to make the connection between the bondage that you were in and how it was brought into existence by the religious principles that you were taught, the more you are desire to move from that wilderness to a place that has been promised to you. And that thing that has been promised to you is the ability to know who you are. And you have a choice to make. You can stay in this wilderness and continuously hold on to those principles of Christianity that you were taught, those principles that put you in bondage in the first place. You can justify them if you want to yourself. But as long as you justify them to yourself, you will always be in bondage, even though you have come out of that tight space. Because the space of bondage was so tight that you were not given a chance to able to read. You were not to think for yourself. You were not to make a way for yourself. You were not given the privilege to do anything other than what you were told. But when you realized that you were more than that, you no longer stayed in the chicken yard because you knew you were an eagle. And now you have a chance after purging to either fly like an eagle or stay in this wilderness and become a chicken again. When you choose to fly above the chicken yard and you began to look around and see that you're more than this. I'm not a chicken, I'm an eagle. And that is the time that you began to see the land that was promised to you, the consciousness that was promised to you. As long as you were in that space being bombarded by all of those who were trying to convince you that you were a chicken, you couldn't hear clearly. But the moment you embrace the reality of who you are, you could see beyond anything that you ever dreamed of. And you realized that the chicken yard was not the world, that you are a part of the world, and the world is you. In other words, the universe is you and you're the universe. Now your mind is no longer clouded. You know you're a spiritual being. You know that you are able to rise above the chaos. You know that you are in this earth, but not of it. You know these things. So that pathway that you were talking about, that pathway guides you, leads you out of that state of confusion, that ball of confusion that has kept you in a state of not believing you were worth anything, or not believing there was anything beyond what you were told to believe. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. And you were talking to me.
Okay.
Same here.
Thank you. Talk to me too. But that's where we are. We're not chickens. We're eagles. And of course I use that metaphorically, because you do know an eagle is a vulture. And America has an eagle as its symbol. I guess vultures, no vultures. I'm done.
Pastor, while you were saying that, now what is an owl?
Owl represents wisdom because it could see it could turn its head all the way around, see everything.
Okay.
Now leave these birds alone, Charles. Because you go talk about a bird I don't know nothing about, right, wrong.
You're getting close now. No, I like the part about the path being prepared for you, and you just keep moving.
Yeah.
Just keep moving, and that's what we're doing. Just keep moving. You're gonna slow down sometime, but that's okay. I like that.
I like that too, Ron. Thank you.
Yeah. Good discussion.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Sorry.
I appreciate y'all, brothers.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you. Your question for us something.
Do y'all feel the energy on this phone when we have these discussions? This is beautiful to me.
I
It's
do.
beautiful. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, I do.
Amen.
Yeah.
Ashe.
I do.
So
I agree. Thank
Yes.
you.
Amen.
yes, yes, yes. Are we done? Anyone else? Keep breathing your meditations. Love it. And till we meet again. Thank you, everyone,
Thank you.
for your energy.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
all.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
For the rest of your week.
Absolutely.
Bye, y'all.
Everyone.